How could he? The thought screamed through my mind as the silver keys swung from my brother's fingers. Just like that, 15 years meant nothing. That new company truck is yours, my dad beamed, handing the keys over to my brother Leo, like it was some grand engagement prize. I quietly pushed my chair back. The next morning, I walked into the office and gave my 2 weeks' notice. 3 months down the line, the frantic calls started. They were completely lost without me. For 15 years, I'd poured everything I had into building my father's plumbing business, Sterling Pipe and Drain, turning it from a side hustle into a respected local company. Watching him gift the brand new work truck, my work truck, to Leo felt like a punch to the gut. It was the final, undeniable proof. My effort, my loyalty, it would never truly count. I'm Marcus, 35 years old. Up until a few months ago, I was the engine driving Sterling Pipe and Drain forward. While my buddies went off to university, I stayed local, helping Dad expand. I didn't just learn the trade, I lived it. From wrestling with hopelessly clogged drains and fixing burst pipes in freezing weather to calming down panicked homeowners at 2 a.m., I did it all. I handled the tough installs, the complicated systems. I became the reliable face of the business while my father, Richard, shifted more towards managing things from the office. Dad started with just an old pickup and a tool chest in the backyard shed. Today, Sterling Pipe and Drain, well, their company now, boasts 7 trucks and 10 employees. That didn't happen by chance. It was built on countless hours of my sweat, weekends I gave up, and an obsessive focus on our reputation in the community. Every glowing online review, every family that called us back year after year, every neighbor who recommended us, I personally made sure they were happy. My younger brother Leo started 5 years back. At 28, he still carries himself like a kid grudgingly helping out after school. He strolls in late most days, stretches his lunch breaks, and often leaves jobs messy or incomplete. I can't even count the number of times I had to smooth things over with customers after one of his visits. While my phone was always on for emergencies, Leo conveniently forgot his on weekends. Dad always had a ready excuse. He's just getting the hang of it. Or, not everyone's a natural like you, Marcus. Looking back, the signs were unmistakable. I'd train new guys only to watch them get promoted ahead of me. I developed a streamlined scheduling system that boosted our efficiency by 25%. But at the company barbecue, Leo got the pat on the back for championing the upgrade. When I proposed we branch out into commercial contracts, Dad brushed it off as too much risk. 6 months later, when Leo mumbled the same idea, suddenly it was forward thinking. The money situation became the elephant in the room. For years, Dad dangled the carrot of partnership, talking about shares that never actually appeared. Then I accidentally saw a payroll stub and found out Leo was making $18,000 more a year than me, despite having way less experience and responsibility. I was wrestling with a 2012 truck pushing 190,000 miles, while Dad and Leo drove vehicles less than 2 years old. I kept telling myself loyalty was key, that family was everything, that Dad would see my value eventually. I couldn't have been more wrong. My old truck had been coughing and sputtering for months. The transmission felt like it was slipping on ice. The ride was bone-jarring, and rust had eaten holes in the back, letting rain soak valuable equipment. After it broke down spectacularly, costing us a lucrative job with a property manager, Dad finally admitted we needed a replacement. That evening, I was poking around under the hood of my dying truck when Dad walked into the garage holding 2 cold beers. He handed one to me, leaning against the workbench. It almost felt like the old days, back before Leo joined, when it was just Dad and me figuring things out together. "Remember when I showed you how to swap the fan belt on that old Ranger?" he asked, a faint smile touching his face. "You couldn't have been more than 13. I nodded, the memory surprisingly clear. He'd let me do the whole thing, just watching, telling me I had the steadiest hands he'd ever seen on a young fella. "Never saw anyone pick up plumbing like you did, Marcus. Real knack for it." He took a long drink, his eyes on the battered truck, not me. "This whole operation, it wouldn't be here without you." In that small moment, I actually felt seen, connected to him in a way that had become so rare. He gave my shoulder a quick squeeze before heading back inside, leaving me wondering why those acknowledgments were so few and far between. Why couldn't he say things like that when it mattered? During pay reviews in front of Leo, when making big decisions. I threw myself into finding the perfect new truck. Weeks were spent comparing models, balancing payload with gas mileage, hunting down the best financing, getting all the paperwork ready. I even got pre-approval from the bank we'd used forever. This truck was going to be my rolling office for the next 10 years. It had to be right. The following Sunday, Dad called everyone over for dinner. Leo brought his fiancée, Sarah. They'd gotten engaged quickly, after just 10 months together. Mom cooked up a storm, and Dad was in an unusually buoyant mood. After we finished dessert, he tapped his glass for attention. My hopes rose. Maybe this was it, the partnership announcement, or at least some real recognition. Instead, he fished a set of keys out of his pocket, dangling from a sterling pipe and drain keychain. With the widest grin I'd seen on him in ages, he presented them to Leo. To help you get started on your new life, son. The new company truck is all yours. Had them put in those upgrades you mentioned. Consider it an early engagement gift from your mother and me. The air went still. Leo smirked, looking pleased with himself, while Sarah clapped excitedly. They didn't even seem to register the look on my face. Mom got busy clearing dishes, carefully avoiding my gaze. My voice felt trapped, but I forced the words out. Dad, we talked about that truck. For my service route. Leo doesn't even take emergency calls. Dad waved a hand dismissively. You can nurse the old one along for a bit longer. Leo needs to look professional now that he's taking on more client-facing stuff. Besides, you're the expert at keeping that thing running. Always been good with fixing things. I just watched Leo jangling the keys, not even bothering to say thanks, already talking about maybe getting a custom wrap. The truck I needed, the one I'd researched and planned for, was now just his shiny new toy. Driving home in my rattling, worn-out truck, something inside me just snapped. It wasn't just the vehicle. It was 15 years of being sidelined. 15 years of my contributions being minimized while Leo coasted. It was the gut-wrenching realization that I'd always be the reliable mule, while Leo would forever be the favored child. Sleep was impossible that night. For the first time ever, I started seriously browsing online job boards. I sent a casual text to Dave, a guy who used to work with us before moving to a competitor, Apex Mechanical Solutions. I asked him how things were over there. His reply hit me hard. Marcus, man, with your skills and the way clients trust you, you could walk into any shop in this county and name your price. Seriously, why are you still at your dad's place? That question echoed. What I'd called loyalty suddenly felt like enabling my own disrespect. I'd gotten so used to being undervalued, I'd forgotten I had options. Dave mentioned Apex needed an experienced tech to head up their commercial division. The exact kind of role I'd suggested at Sterling, only to be shot down. I spent the next week methodically documenting every single thing I handled. I wrote up detailed guides for our specialized equipment, noted key client preferences, mapped out maintenance schedules, listed supplier contacts, and outlined emergency procedures. I updated the customer database with notes on every significant account. I wasn't going to sabotage the business. That wasn't my style, but I also wasn't leaving them any reason to blow up my phone after I was gone. The following Monday, I got to the shop before anyone else and left an envelope on my father's desk. He strolled in an hour later, his usual relaxed timing. When he finally opened the envelope, his casual air vanished, replaced by confusion, then disbelief. 2 weeks' notice? What is this, Marcus? Some kind of prank? He asked, leaning back like he couldn't quite process it. I explained calmly, professionally. I mentioned the truck briefly, but focused on the years of broken promises about partnership and my need to grow elsewhere. I told him I'd accepted a position at Apex Mechanical Solutions. You'll come crawling back in a week, Dad scoffed. They can't match what you have here. This is just you throwing a fit about the truck. He didn't even ask what my new salary was. If he had, he might have choked learning I'd be making nearly 35% more, plus full benefits and a clear path to partner status within 2 years. Word got around the shop fast. Leo cornered me by the supply shelves, his usual cocky expression replaced by raw panic. You can't just leave, he hissed. Who's going to handle the Greenwood contracts? The hospital maintenance? Who takes the after-hours calls? For a second, his entire confident act crumbled. His voice dropped. Dad's been saying I'll take over someday, but I don't know half the stuff you do. I never really paid attention to the systems. I'm not ready. His sudden vulnerability was surprising, but it wasn't my burden to carry anymore. He'd happily taken the credit while I did the heavy lifting for years. I'm sure you'll figure it out, I said evenly. You've got a nice new truck to drive while you do it. Those final 2 weeks felt incredibly freeing. I showed the remaining techs as much as I could, introduced key clients to their replacements, and compiled everything into a thick binder labeled Operations Manual in big black letters. On my last day, I put the binder on Dad's desk next to my company phone gas card, and shop keys. He barely looked up, still convinced I'd be back, tail between my legs. Mom called that night, crying, begging me to reconsider, talking about family sticking together through thick and thin. I gently told her I had stuck by them for 15 years while being taken for granted. This wasn't sudden, it was long overdue. Starting at Apex was like breathing fresh air. My new boss, Robert, introduced me to everyone as one of the best plumbers in the county. My ideas weren't just listened to, they were acted upon. When I suggested a more efficient way to manage commercial maintenance routes, Robert told me to develop it for the whole company and gave me the support I needed. Then came a real test. Apex had been trying to land the Greenwood Business Plaza maintenance contract for ages. When Robert said they were giving it one last shot, I knew I held a potential trump card. Sterling had serviced those buildings for years. I knew their quirky systems, their past problems, their priorities. Using that knowledge could almost guarantee Apex the win. But it felt slimy, like betraying a trust, even though I hadn't signed any non-compete clause. I tossed and turned all night. Apex was giving me the respect, pay, and opportunity my own family hadn't. I desperately wanted to prove my worth, but not like that. The next morning, I went into Robert's office. I explained that while I couldn't ethically share specifics about Greenwood's setup, I could help craft a killer proposal based on my general experience with similar large properties. Robert looked at me thoughtfully for a moment. "You know, Marcus, a lot of guys would have just used any edge they had," he said finally. "That integrity is exactly why I wanted you here. We won the contract anyway, fair and square, based on the strength of our bid. That felt better than any shortcut. The biggest surprise? My workday actually ended. No more frantic midnight calls because Leo messed up a simple repair. No more sacrificing weekends because Dad overpromised without checking my schedule. I started seeing old friends again, took up hiking on Saturdays, and even started dating someone new, someone who wasn't constantly dealing with my work exhaustion. Meanwhile, the chaos at Sterling Pipe and Drain started almost immediately. Within 2 weeks, their online reviews plummeted from 4.7 to 3.1 stars. Longtime customers who always asked for me were livid to find out I was gone. The complex scheduling system I'd built, which nobody else really understood, started glitching, leading to missed calls and angry clients. The text started about 3 weeks in. First, Leo, "How do I pull the Harborview maintenance logs?" Then Dad, "Where did you file the warranty stuff for the Miller job?" I replied curtly, pointing them to the binder I'd left, and offered nothing more. Things truly imploded when Leo tried to handle the quarterly service at Harborview Regional Hospital, their biggest contract. He forgot a crucial shutoff valve, flooding a basement storage room full of supplies. The hospital canceled their $160,000 annual contract on the spot. That same week, 2 of their most experienced plumbers quit, fed up with the disorganization and lack of direction. Chris, one of the guys who left, told me later what happened next. Leo apparently had a massive meltdown back at the shop, throwing tools and screaming that he was being set up to fail. He yelled at Dad, accusing him of pushing him into the deep end without training, expecting him to magically fill my shoes. Chris said Leo finally just sank onto a workbench, head in his hands, muttering, "Marcus made it all look so simple." I never knew. I never bothered to find out. Dad just stood there, white as a sheet, watching the business unravel. The golden boy was cracking under the pressure of real work. The tone of the text from home shifted. "We should talk" turned into "please call." Then, "the business is in real trouble." Mom started calling every day, her voice tight with worry. Even Leo's fiancée, Sarah, texted me, saying he was a wreck and not sleeping. I kept my distance, pouring my energy into my new role. I landed 3 major commercial accounts in my first 2 months, earning a hefty bonus. With the better pay and sane hours, I finally saved enough for a down payment on a small house. And I bought myself a new truck. Not a company one this time, but my own, paid for by my own hard work, fairly compensated. Word gets around in the trades. Suppliers who dealt with both Sterling and Apex would casually mention the downturn. "Heard your dad had to let 3 more guys go," one guy said while dropping off pipes. "Tough seeing an old business struggle." I just nodded politely, never saying a bad word about them, even when tempted. After 3 months of near silence between us, my father called on a Tuesday night. His voice was thin, tired. "Marcus, we need to meet. The business. It's bad." We met at a neutral coffee shop. Seeing Dad and Leo walk in was jarring. Dad looked thinner, his usual neatness gone. Leo had dark circles under his eyes and none of his usual swagger. They laid it all out. Revenue down 55%, only 4 employees left. The bank making noises about their loan. 3 trucks sold off to pay bills. The brand new truck Leo had gotten was gone too, sacrificed. Dad had even taken out a second mortgage on his house to keep things afloat. "We messed up, Marcus," Dad said, his voice cracking. "I messed up. I took you for granted." Now, for the first time ever, I saw tears in my father's eyes. Leo just stared down at the tabletop. Dad slid a folder toward me. Inside was a partnership offer, 40% ownership, a big salary bump, full control over operations. "Please," he choked out, "help us salvage this." The old Marcus, the one desperate for approval, might have leaped at it. But that Marcus vanished the day they gave away my truck. I calmly explained I wasn't coming back. I'd found a place that valued me from day one, not just when disaster struck. "This isn't about punishing you," I said gently. "I just finally know what I'm worth. I spent 15 years chasing respect and fair treatment that should have been automatic. I can't go backward." Leo finally looked up, his voice flat. "I had no clue how much you did until you were gone. I thought running calls was the easy part. I thought," he swallowed hard, "I thought Dad was playing favorites with you, giving you all the important stuff. I was an idiot." There was no satisfaction in seeing them like this. I offered what practical help I could. Names of good plumbers looking for work, ideas for restructuring, advice on which clients to focus on rebuilding trust with. "This isn't revenge," I repeated. "I left for me, not against you." 6 months later, Sterling Pipe and Drain is still around, but it's a much smaller operation. Dad is semi-retired, letting Leo handle the day-to-day. Leo's had to learn the trade the hard way, actually running calls himself. They're down to 3 trucks, mostly doing residential jobs now. Family dinners are still a bit awkward, but we're finding a new dynamic. Mom stopped trying to guilt me back once she saw my new house and heard I was promoted to manage Apex's commercial division. Even Leo seems to have gained a sliver of respect. He occasionally texts technical questions, and I answer them plainly. For the first time in my adult life, I don't wake up dreading the day. I'm not the overlooked son anymore, constantly seeking validation. The heaviest thing I ever carried wasn't pipes or toolboxes. It was the weight of trying to earn respect from people who couldn't see my value until it was gone. Sometimes walking away is the only way to find yourself. The best revenge isn't seeing others stumble after you leave. It's building your own success so undeniably that your absence speaks for itself. Last month, Robert mentioned wanting to open a second Apex branch in the next county over. He wants me to head it up, maybe buy him out eventually. I catch myself sketching logo ideas, mapping service zones, picturing a fleet of trucks. Definitely not Sterling Blue. Not out of spite, but because they'll represent something built on mutual respect, something truly mine.